friends, welcome to Sim Sunday. My name's Aaron Ciotti. This is my dad.
No, I'm not.
He's my slightly older brother. Welcome to the show.
From another mother.
We're gonna be
and father.
simming. We're gonna. What are we doing? Hold on. I was too busy watching Joshua to pay attention. We're gonna do 6 batteries. We're gonna do mailbag, which I already opened up, but you know, and it's a Q&A live stream, as they all are. So leave any questions that you've got in the chat, and yeah, we'll talk through them. Speaking of, Michael Kajas was first. Apache Smoke Wounded Sniper was next. Hockey Rounds, FPV Super Trucker Riot 9 Toothpick Titans It's Terrible. Free Lojo, Douglas Otwell, Flush FPV, CH3 FPV, Dennis Matovich, Brandon Woodford, Dare V, Espander, Four Little Pigs, Northern Tier, 661, Scott FPV, Anonymous, Brandon's Baked Beans, Riot 9, Simo, Gusto, and a little bit of Hillside FPV in here, some Simon, Kenny Kobe, Z-Bear99. What's up, everybody? Thanks for coming. Welcome to hell. Sean England as well. If you want to talk directly to me in the chat, all you guys got to do is type CiottiFPV, like what CH3 did up here. If you spell it correctly, it'll light up an orange. You can do this with each other. If you type Douglas space Otwell into your chat, for him, his own name will light up an orange. And then he'll know that you're talking to him. Just like in the real world, when you say someone's name and then you start talking to them. You don't just walk up to people and start mouthing off. Maybe you do. I do. Apache Smoke Wounded Sniper says, what's up, CiottiFPV? How are you doing? I'm exhausted. We had a party yesterday, a white elephant party. And, you know, it was fun.
Kick-ass
it was super
party.
fun. Yeah. It's just, you know, parties. They're exhausting. I am confused as to why these lights aren't on. I put a big battery on them. I did forget to turn the battery off.
That's
the
why.
battery went dead.
That'll do
It ran
it.
for like 3 days last time. It must not have gotten all the way charged. Well, it will be a little bit less Christmassy today. Sorry.
But you've got
You'll
me.
live. You'll live. It's true. Santa's here.
Oh, I don't have my Santa shirt on.
Sandy Claus is here.
Is the hat still in the living room, or did it get put away?
Knowing Maggie, it got put away.
It's out in the garage then.
Yeah.
All right, I'll be
Packed
right
away
back.
in mothballs. CH3FPV says, what's up? And all good gangly gang. And Riot9 says, did dad get a tan? So my mom and dad are on their yearly 4 to 6 month, basically they know how to live. When it gets cold in New Jersey, they get in their RV and they drive south. And so we are a month or two, about a month, I think, into their it's like mobile snowbirding. And so yeah, he sits on the beach, gets a tan, while we're all being suckers working. But yeah, my parents worked hard as hell to get to this point, so they deserve it, of course. Z-Bear99 says, question above. Thanks, dude. Where's it at, Z-Bear? Here it is. Z-Bear says, your thoughts on the newbie drone Hummingbird V3? Metalhead FPV was talking about Goober canopies being too fragile. Is that a deal breaker for you? Great price, though. So I've done a bunch of live streams with the Hummingbird V3, and I've talked in depth about. There it is. There's Santa. Santa has arrived. Hold on, let me do something. My light is also set for right here, not back there. That's better. That's better. It looks less tan now.
Compared to who?
So here's what you do. You come over here to the main part of my channel, and here's a little YouTube secret for you. There's a little magnifying glass here next to community that's kind of hidden. This is going to allow you to search only on the person's channel that you're looking at. So if we search for Hummingbird, it's going to find more than just the V3, but it puts them somewhat in order here.
Chronological order?
Somewhat, yeah, somewhat chronological. It also factors in how many views they've had. But so we've got, this is when it first released, and NewbieDrone sent it to me, so there's going to be some initial thoughts and flying it completely stock in here. Then here's a stream where I'm tuning it and upgrading it. And now here we're comparing it to the Ultimate Freestyle TinyWhoop. So basically, I mean, in these 3 live streams, and they do have timestamps thanks to Apache Smoke Wounded Sniper, so you won't have to watch the whole 2 hours, 2.5 hours, 2 hours. You'll be able to skip through it on the timestamps. Loads and loads and loads and loads of info and what upgrades go well, and even me blowing one up. And then you'll see here the 4th video, NewbieDrone Hummingbird V3 number 2, now with less magic smoke. So this is when we got to fly it a little bit more. The magic smoke was more than likely related to the fact that the initial run of them, they've fixed this, but the initial run had Blue Jay 0.20, which is a problem. And yeah, so you have to backdate it. And that's not really NewbieDrone's fault, per se. So, yeah. Quick thoughts on the Hummingbird V3. I'm really impressed by it, actually. If it had a regular OSD chip on it, I would maybe switch over to it, because it's got ELRS, it's got a seemingly good VTX. It's not a super powerful VTX, but it's a TinyWhoop. You're not going to go very far with it. You're not. I've put 25 milliwatts, 1,400 feet up in the air, and it was crystal clear. So yeah, nothing wrong with the lower output power on the VTX. It's more important to have a good quality VTX than a shitload of output power, and it seems to have a good quality VTX. The main letdown, though, of the Hummingbird V3 is that it doesn't have the standard OSD chip. They run their own custom OSD on a much smaller chip, and unfortunately, the OSD itself is a layer on top of your video, and the thing that the old giant OSD chip is good at is having that layer be very see-through, very clear. NewbieDrone's OSD on a much smaller chip, it doesn't do as good of a job, so there's like this like almost muddy, kind of almost cloudy sort of layer that is the OSD. Analog is already kind of cloudy and garbagey, so that just makes the situation a little bit worse, and that's why I don't fly that AIO very much. The only way, it's also extremely light, and it's cut down in the corners. The only way that they're able to have ELRS VTX on board, cut down, super lightweight, is because they're using that tiny little OSD chip. So that's the sacrifice. You sacrifice a little bit of video quality for U.S. not manufacturer, but U.S. companies selling it with good customer support. Yeah, all the things. So if you want lots more info, skip through those 4 live streams, and you'll learn everything you need to know about the Hummingbird V3. It's really impressive. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it, but I have impossibly high standards, and the Ultimate Freestyle TinyWhoops have just completely spoiled me. And this combination of AIO, camera, canopy, antenna, motor, frame is just magic, and it's extremely tough to compete with that. Yeah, it's damn, is it good though. The Hummingbird V3 really blew me away. I was not expecting it to be that good. So yeah. The other question was in relation to the Goober canopy. The Goober canopy, I have a love and hate relationship with. It's a little bit too heavy, and then it's a little bit too brittle. Like, it'll take a ton of abuse, and then if you hit it just wrong, it'll break. Or if you hit it on just the wrong surface. So like, it kind of depends on what you're crashing into. If you're crashing into anything with any amount of softness, it's gonna last forever. But if you crash into like really, really hard stuff that's gonna give like a really sharp kind of hit, that's when it can break the corner of the Goober canopy off. So yeah, kind of depends. But people that say that the Goober canopy is fragile, I don't know. I don't know if fragile is the word that I would use, but it depends on the surface. So yeah, wish I had a more solid answer for you there, but it really does matter. I mean, I've had Goober canopies. So I run the Goober canopies on the tiny lifters, which have on the top of the Goober canopy a 26-gram camera trying to rip it to shreds, and I think I've only broken one on one of those tiny lifters. So it is a strong canopy. It's just if you hit it exactly wrong, it will break. Absolutely, it will break. The Happy Model Mobula 6 canopy is lighter and stronger. It doesn't have provisions for mounting an Insta360 Go 2 on top, but yeah, for like a freestyle or just like a regular-ish TinyWhoop, I'm in love with the Mobula 6 canopy. The only problem with the Mobula 6 canopy is you can only run the Runcam Nano 3 inside of it. That's not true. You can put I've got 2 of these now with Walk Snail Lite cameras mounted in it. But yeah, I think these are the only 2 cameras that you can really mount in this canopy. So.
Which one do you have to put the long screw in the back of?
That is related to the Goober canopy. Look at this guy listening. Good Lord, that's scary.
I have no idea what you're saying, but I do listen. I mean, I've had 40 years of practice.
So the Goober canopy, it's because the Goober canopy is so like strong. If you hit it inverted, and also the design of it, it puts a lot of pressure on the rear mounting post of the frame. So if you're going to run the Goober canopy and you're going to crash hard, you want to put a longer screw in the back to dig down farther into that rear plastic post in the rear part of the frame. The back of the frame has a flat plastic here, and then it's got that really skinny little vertical post that the screw comes down into and that the grommets go over. And the regular screw only goes like halfway down that post. So when the Goober canopy hits and pushes it backwards, it just breaks that post right off. Happy Model Mobula, I'll show you in a second, but there's longer hardware. The hardware is M1.2. So I mean, you can just find longer M1.2 hardware, but hang on, I got you. The longer hardware, if you put a longer screw in, there's the post and there's the flat plastic on the bottom. The longer screw will drive all the way down in through the flat plastic, and you're not breaking that flat plastic from pushing in this direction. You could still, maybe if you hit it totally wrong, yank up and out, but how are you going to put an upward force on this canopy, right? It's really not going to happen. All the force, right? Oh yeah, right, like that, and then still be hard to do.
Show them how to do it.
But most of the abuse is going to come in this direction, and that pushes rearwards. So with a longer screw in the rear, you'll just never break the frame. You can get the longer screws from a couple of different websites. Race Day Quad should be one of them. Mob 7 screw. Will that find it? I wonder. Nope. Let's just do Mobula hardware.
M1.2
there
hardware.
It is. So Happy Model Mobula 7 Whoop Smear replacement blah 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 blah. These are the ones. They're just a little bit longer. That's all. It's gonna come with these. Hang on to them. These long ones are handy if you ever do like a walk snail build. Grommets. Yep. But yeah, these are the longer screws here. This is one of the easiest ways to get them. $2 whole from RDQ. Buy some other stuff while you're at it. Sure wish they would give me an affiliate link.
Are they listening?
No.
Oh.
Certainly not. Let's see if it's...
What's their phone number?
Anywhere else. Let's see if...
Let me give him a piece of my mind.
All right. Whoop hardware. Let's see what Google will find. I do this every once in a while, and it's always just race day quads and Banggood. And it looks like it's the same. But again, you can probably get, you can probably find the longer hardware. Just get it from race day quads. Just do yourself a favor. Just get it from race day quads. Buy a couple extra things. Treat yourself. It's Christmas time. Buy yourself an early Christmas present. And yeah, get 2 sets while you're at it because they're only $2. So there you go. YouTube did the thing, so I have no idea where I was in chat, but I'll find it. I'll find it.
Make sure you like the stream.
Yeah, do the YouTube things, and I'll keep doing the YouTube thing. You do the YouTube things, and I'll keep doing the YouTube thing. Oh, okay, there we go. Z-Bear, got it. Sean England says, what's the deal with RDQ Get FPV having all the whoops in pre-order, everything sold out? I've got whoop fever now that the cold has set in. So you answered your own question, Sean. You've got whoop fever now that the cold has set in. So does everyone else. So yeah, this happens every year. We literally call the winter whoop season. Nobody wants to go outside because it's awful out, so everybody's like, well, shit, I'll buy all the TinyWhoop things. So yeah, there's a huge run on TinyWhoop stuff every November, December, and yeah, it's kind of tough. Check We Bleed FPV, check tinywhoop.com, check those are really the 2 big ones. They usually have a ton of good stuff in stock, and they're also like the TinyWhoop specific shops, so try your best to support them first before Get FPV, RDQ, stuff like that. They also have like more stuff, more specific stuff, so it's good to remind yourself to check those spots first. Expander says, hi CiottiFPV, hi Dad, hi gang. Z-Bear says, are your parents Flyers fans? My bad, I'm not searching your site, so sorry. No, it's all good, dude. Yeah, I was actually born while my dad was watching the Flyers in the playoffs. He was like, this kid, no. He'll be fine. This is a once. This will never happen again.
I hope your mother doesn't see this. Yes, they were in the play. This was
Have they
in
been since
the 80s.
This was 81.
Yeah, and they were in the playoffs this century.
Really?
Yeah. They've had a good team. I think in the 20s or in the 2010. No, 20s. I think.
Was it Legion of Doom era?
Oh, no.
Did they ever get the Legion of Doom into the playoffs?
No,
right?
Well, that was Eric Lindros, and he was a hell of a player in juniors, but once he got into the NHL, he would come through center ice with his head down, and somebody would clock him, and he was a concussion victim. He had
I didn't even know that.
Dozens. Jesus. Yeah. There was a defenseman for the New Jersey Devils that Scott. Maybe Scott was his last name, but he really took Eric Lindros to town for putting his head down. You can't do that in the NHL. You put your head down and you get knocked unconscious.
Yeah. They were in the cup in 2010.
There you go.
I'll be damned.
Yeah. They've been exciting to watch. I've enjoyed nothing like the Bobby Clark era, but I've enjoyed watching them. And then I enjoyed watching the Carolina Hurricanes, mainly because of Rod Brindamore, and the LA Kings. The LA Kings had a bunch of Flyers players when they went to Stanley Cup playoffs. I don't know that I think they did win. The LA Kings won one with a whole bunch of ex-Flyers players on them.
Man, they have a hard fucking time in the playoffs. Holy
the Flyers.
Shit. Oh my God, they lose in the first round every other year.
Yeah, well, they get it. They're
tough.
Everybody knows how to play the Flyers, right? You can't get you couldn't get into a physical game with them, and with all the rule changes, it really took the game away from the Flyers' style of play from the 70s and 80s.
Can't just punch people in the head to win anymore, huh?
Well, not when the referee's looking. I mean,
hockey. So I make fun of sports ball all the time. Hockey doesn't use a ball, so I'm good. Yeah, hockey's like the only sport that I care at all about, and I don't follow it at all anymore. But still, I like that. Hockey's the one sport that I can actually watch and not just fall asleep.
Yeah.
What else we got going on? Northern Tier says Quad 66 noticed on the Hummingbird. Yeah, I just saw this. Thank you for mentioning this, Northern Tier. I would have forgotten this. Noticed on the Hummingbird AIO that the motor pads are really close to the FETs if you decide to direct solder the motors. I'm going to give you guys a link to this. First of all, don't direct solder your motors. It's kind of silly. NewBeeDrone does have a version of the Hummingbird V3 board that doesn't have the plugs on it, and it's designed to be soldered to, which is where you can potentially run into some problems, as Quad 66 did. So, yeah, here it is. Oh, wait, no. Edit totally incorrect theory. All right, so it looks like he's updated it. Well, here's the link, just for the sake of getting you over to his channel, because if you're not subscribed to Quad 66, then I'm going to attack you physically. Discard clip, share, copy. There you go. So there's a link to the video. I wonder if he put where. Oh man, hold on. I guess there's a comment where he figures out that it's not. Although, how could his theory is that you can accidentally. Oh, I guess he realized that the FET just let go all on its own and that he hadn't bridged to it, maybe. But, I mean, I think what he's talking about in this is valid. Let me see if I can find a frame in the video where you can kind of see it. All right, so yeah, he's kind of showing it there. Like, no, so they normally mount the FETs so that the little feet are left and right. The little pins, rather, are left and right, so that when you solder up here, there's not much of a chance of you bridging to them. Well, the Hummingbird V3, this FET on each channel, like the inner FET on each channel, it's got the pins on this side and on this side, rather than this side and this side. So the pins on this side are super close to these motor pads, which is bad. So if you're going to direct solder your motors to your Hummingbird V3, just hit yourself in the head with a hammer instead. It'll accomplish the same thing. If you're into that sort of thing, be careful. But don't do it. Use the plugs. Use the plugs. You're not going to save any significant weight, and you're just going to make your life so much better by using the plugs. Use the plugs, for God's sakes. Freelojo says his dad looked at Bender's time code. It's binary. What? Oh, I read it as his. Has dad looked at Bender's time code? Bender's time code.
Bender from Futurama?
Bender from Futurama?
How do we both know that cartoon?
Code.
There's something wrong with that, son.
The time code is a count from 1 to 6 in binary mirrored vertically. Directly translated from binary, it reads 1. The time code also hides the initials of Matt Groening. Of course it does. Unbelievable. If you join the zeros in the code, you get MG. Wow. God damn. Like, what would we do without literal geniuses making content?
And then someone recognizing it.
Yeah, right. Is it in his eye? Is that what they're showing? It's the time code is in his eye. That's insane.
Yeah.
Paradox. Oh, here's more. Which initiates a paradox correcting time sphere. There's also a level 87 code. Time sphere allows for one-way travel backwards through time. So we figured it out. They figured it out. Okay. Time travel solved. Simultaneously correcting any paradoxes might ensue. The fit results time coded for future honor. Bender's big score decision 3012 as a Xerox copy. Wow. Wow. So what was the question again?
What question?
Bender's looked at. Wow, that's wild. The answer is no, but now he has. Simon says, can you please talk through your tight split S moves later? Sure. I'm making big progress, but they're a bit irregular to me. I think it's more the feel as I do them when I don't overthink. Simon, yes, when we get into the sim, I want you to be super detailed. Tag me again and be super detailed with what you're having trouble with. When you say tight split S, I'm not totally clear on what you mean. I'm guessing that you just mean quickly turning the rig over and then immediately getting it down like into a gate, because that's one of the really difficult things to do down here in the basement. So I'm assuming that's what you're talking about, but when we're in the simulator, type a big message out like you just did here and be as detailed as you can, and then we'll kind of talk through it. Split S, that being said, split S's are mainly timing moves, and timing based moves are just muscle memory, and it's just doing it over and over and over again. There is an element of watching your footage back, and like, so getting the timing right, like you approach the move level, and then the real magic is perfectly flipping inverted level. So it just looks almost like a robot did it. That also allows you to, I mean, it depends. If you line up perfectly for the gap and you do that, all is right with the world. If you're not quite lined up perfectly, there's a couple things that you can actually do to correct that. You can, so if you're approaching, so for you, you're going to look left. So I need to say left instead of, this is my right. But if you're approaching the gate off to the left a little bit, you can then drag the throttle. As you chop the throttle, you can drag it downwards as you turn it over, and that will give you more thrust to correct it, to send it over in this direction. Or you can wait until the end. You can kind of do it at the beginning or the end of the move. You can chop the throttle all the way down, turn it over, but don't turn it all the way. Leave a little bit here, and then when you pick the throttle, you can pick the throttle back up to give it shift it off to the side a little bit. So there's a lot of kind of nuance to it. But yeah, when we get in the sim, we'll dive a little bit more into that, and I can actually just show it to you on the sticks.
If a novice wanted to get into the sim, like me, what would I need to buy from the blank? I need to buy that radio.
Best way to get started in FPV, friends, if you have somebody that wants to get started, help them buy a transmitter. Maybe just buy them a used QX7, which is probably like $70, $80. And that's it, really is.
And then download the software?
Yeah.
Do you have to pay a fee to use the software, or is it free?
$30.
$30 a year?
No, one time.
One time, $30? I could afford that.
Yeah. I'll say. Yeah.
You've been in my bank account again. Now I got to change all my credit card numbers. Oh boy.
Nah. Just the
Can
Chinese
it wait
have
till
them
April?
all. It's fine. ZBear99 says, with your dad busting your chops, must be a Flyers fan. Thanks for your feedback, by the way. Free Lojo dropping Free Lojo dropping the Patreon link. Thank you, dude. This is my full-time job. If you like this live stream, want to see it continue forever,
yes, you do.
Jump onto that Patreon link that Free Lojo posted, or just go over to CiottiFPV.com. It's all listed there. All the different ways that you can support me. Patreon definitely helps me out the most, but you can buy yourself some cool stuff on the Etsy store and the Teespring store. Over on Fiverr, you can work one-on-one with me, take advantage of somebody with almost 8 years of experience that's willing to dump all the knowledge
Show him
on
the
you.
money.
Okay. There's a PayPal link if you want to do a super chat, but you don't want YouTube to take 30%. And then there's a whole bunch of affiliate links. If you're doing an order on the internet, someone has an affiliate link to that website. Try to find it before you check out. It's free money for that person. WeBleed, I have them for WeBleed, Newbie Drone, FPV Cycle, Amazon, Get FPV, Oh My God, Brain 3D, HDZero, FlyWoo, Emacs, Banggood, Camera Butter, AliExpress. So if you're ever ordering from any one of those websites and you hit one of these buttons before you check out, I'll get 1 to 6% of your entire order. And I'll use it to live and buy more stuff to test for more feedback for you people to stop buying garbage. How's that sound? All right. WeBleed FPV says, just send me the link. What were we talking about? That was at 3:25. What were we talking about at 3:25?
What time is it?
That's like 20 minutes later. Oh, Zotek, I forget. I forget what we were talking about, dude. Tag me again. I forget. WeBleed's in the house.
Put the link in there. You put a link in. You put a link in to some.
Was that
some
related
video.
to the Hummingbird V3? If that was related to the Hummingbird V3,
That's right.
the link is in there, I think. I know the link is in the chat. Right9 says, Dennis Matovich, if that's a question, add CiottiFPV. Thank you for doing that. Dennis Matovich says, adding LED to Whoop. So I'm guessing the question is, how do we add LEDs to Whoops? I'm gonna take a capitalist way out on this one. Here's how you add LEDs to Whoops. You just go to TinyWhoop.com and just buy Jesse's stuff, because Jesse has gone all in on LEDs on TinyWhoops. How is there not? There is. There's a specific part of the website just for LEDs. So Jesse has you completely covered. Like, no, the problem with LEDs on TinyWhoops, look, there's 3 pages of TinyWhoop LEDs. The problem with LEDs on TinyWhoops is the voltage. TinyWhoops are super low voltage, 4.35 volts when we start flying, down to 3.2, 3.1 if you're an idiot like me. So yeah, technically, some TinyWhoop AIOs do have 5-volt pads on them. Some of them don't. Sometimes those 5-volt pads are impossibly small and surrounded by stuff. So most of Jesse's LEDs are able to run off of VBAT. You just plop the leads down onto the top of the battery pads and away you go. So yeah, if you want LEDs on your TinyWhoop, just come here to the LED part of TinyWhoop.com. And the other cool thing about this is that Jesse does a really good job with the descriptions of all these items. Like, he doesn't just dump the item in and say, hey, buy it. He talks about, well, this is not a great example of that. Usually he's got like a big chunk of text in here. Let's find like a more normal. All right, so one of the more popular, is it the whiskers? So here you go. This is more like what we normally see. What?
Would it make sense when you're modifying the battery connector to add 2 wires?
Yeah, you could do that.
And now you have VBAT without soldering to the circuit board?
Yeah, you could totally do that. A lot of times the connectors are already on them. Like, this one comes, so you'd have to like rip this all apart.
But if you're modifying,
but if you're making
it
your
to
own connector, yeah,
what is it called that you always do?
BT 2.0.
BT 2.0.
Yeah, if you're doing your own BT 2.0, you could very easily put the LED directly on there, and then you could argue that the wire runs will be a little bit longer in that case.
Sure.
You'll have the battery plugged in here, and then you'll have an extra Alva 78. Thanks for the subscription, brother. Welcome to the gang. You'll have an extra set of wires coming off here. Not a big deal. It's gonna release. It's gonna relieve the heat attack from your AIO, and maybe you've got the rig all the way built, right? Like if you're just doing a battery lead and the rig is all together, don't take it apart. Put the wires directly onto here, and away you will go. Unless the extra wires are gonna drive you crazy. You do you, friends. Hold on. So yeah, the TinyWhoop whiskers are a very popular LED option. You don't have to run them as the whiskers name infers that you're gonna use them like actual whiskers and let them hang off the quad like this. But I mean, you could absolutely tuck them in under the canopy and whatnot. But I am looking for, what is this? 0603 LEDs. Why is it motor specific? What? 0.6 millimeters by 0.3 millimeters. I was like, why are these motor specific? I was thinking of the 0603 motor. Yeah, so this is a really popular little LED. This is the one that I was thinking of, not the whiskers. So yeah, Jesse has this all set up, and you've got the 4 LEDs ready to go. A lot of times people will put run this wire around the outside of the duct and glue the LED to the front of the duct. You can just tuck them up inside the canopy, like you see down here. All kinds of creative stuff. That's what I was talking about running them around the duct. Put a little bit of welder around the duct here, and this wire will never come loose. Yeah, you'll add a little bit of weight, but that's okay. If you're putting if you're going this far on LEDs on a TinyWhoop, it's probably not like your main super hardcore freestyle whoop. Just because, yeah, you're going to...
You'd want to do that on the indestructible frame.
Yeah, right. And you're going to be constantly fiddling with these LEDs coming off, because the ducts bend so much that even with the welder, it's probably going to let go. So, but yeah, TinyWhoop's got you covered on the LED front. Lots of really cool stuff. I mean, who doesn't want a flickering flame LED on their TinyWhoop? Come on now. Come on.
Do you have an affiliate link for them?
I do not. He does not do an affiliate program. Look at this. There it is. Look how, well, this is actually a whole bunch of them, but yeah, when I say that Jesse has you covered on the LED stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
Like, come on. Come on. Look at all this cool stuff. Yeah, there they go. And I mean, it's just like there's so much more than just that. He's got tons of really cool stuff. So yeah, do it. It would be fun to do like an all LED'd up TinyWhoop at one point, but man, it's a lot of wiring.
Is the Hummingbird a TinyWhoop?
It is, yeah. So one of the great things that NewbieDrone does, which I think is what my dad's getting at, is that they build addressable LEDs into their AIOs. So the Hummingbird, for example, has 4. You can almost see them. It's this little white thing right here. That little white guy. So yeah, they've got 4 on each diagonal shooting right into the duct. Well, here. If I plug it in, they'll turn on. And you can see them. Yeah, 4 addressable LEDs that point right into the ducts, which is just really cool. And then you don't have to screw with wiring at all. And you just go into the LED tab in Betaflight, and you can change the colors, change the Larson scanning, change all the things. So yeah, good question.
Did you say that just to confuse me?
I go the LED tab in Betaflight is something that I go into like once a year, and every time I go in there, it says Larson scanning, and I'm like, what the fuck is Larson scanning? Matter of fact,
what the heck is Larson scanning, Aaron?
Nonsense. So it's just kit. Okay, got it. Yeah, okay. So it just means scanning left to right, left to right, left to right, left to right. Got it! Kit Trans Am scanning. Thumbs up.
Oh, that kit.
Yeah. KITT.
What was that show?
Knight Rider.
That's it. Very good.
Oh, I remember things sometimes.
Yeah.
Denzel the Terrible says, embarrassing question of the day for David Ciotti. Can you tell us about Aaron's first girlfriend? Probably not. I keep that shit secret.
I guess his first girlfriend was the girl he took to his junior prom. And when I asked Aaron about it, he said, no, she's a lesbian.
Really?
That's what he told me.
Jerk.
I said, no, you don't know at that age. Everyone is experimenting. So it's perfectly
Junior
normal.
high. No, that was...
Junior prom.
Yeah.
That was 11th grade.
Yeah.
Not senior prom. Senior prom...
I did not have a girlfriend until college, I think. Like an actual girlfriend.
Yeah, that's true.
And by that point, I was in the goddamn wind.
He was out of the house. Yeah, when Aaron was applying to colleges, he had a tough time getting in, and he got into the college that his mother and I worked at. And
funny how that works.
It was expensive. Yeah, legacy hire. No, that's not legacy. What is that? What is that called?
No, that's it. Yeah,
is that legacy hire?
Yeah.
Okay. Although that usually refers to graduates of the college getting their kids in, not employees. Anyway, the college was expensive. I had saved money up for Aaron's college, but by the time it came around to actually going to college, I had spent most of the money. Now, I didn't have enough money. And the option was stay at home, live at home, because we were 4 miles away from the college, or stay in the dorms. And his mother and Aaron both insisted that he stay in the dorms because they weren't paying the bills. That was the best decision I ever made, because
Get the hell out of my house.
Aaron became very independent once he went to college, and much more so than the education and the degree that he got that he never uses. Thank you very much.
That's not true anymore.
That's true.
That's
you
not
are
true
using,
anymore.
You are using your video
for 20 years. I didn't use it, but we came full circle. God damn it!
That was money well spent. Letting Aaron stay in the dorm. His first roommate was an alcoholic, and that he hasn't had a problem with alcohol since then. We're not going to mention the other illegal substances. And he became very independent. He became a man because of staying in the dorm.
Yeah.
Getting your own. You just stayed in the dorm 2 years, I think, and then you got an apartment with a bunch of classmates, and then you stayed in the apartment that we lived in when you were born.
So weird.
That is so weird.
There's pictures of me as a tiny little child on a swing set.
I've got them.
In the background of that picture,
that's right,
is the front door of the apartment that I lived in both of my senior years. Not on purpose at all. Like this was only realized like 10 years later or something. It was so strange.
Oh, speaking of embarrassing photos that we can show.
Thanks a lot. All right, you do that. I'll keep going.
Yeah.
Z-Bear says, Flyers looking good this year. Your dad's bleeding orange and black. Gotta love it. Awesome. Z-Bear says, Dad Scott Stevens. What's that mean?
Scott Stevens was the New Jersey Devil player who kicked the shit out of Eric Lindros. Boy, does that look blurry.
Yeah,
I'm too close.
It's a manual focus camera because
should go here.
Is
that upside down?
Hold on. Put it flat on the table. In theory.
Oh, look at that. That's not bad. There we are.
Look at that.
He was under a year old there.
Look at that little rugrat.
Okay, now let me find the naked pictures.
They look nothing like me. It's fine. Nobody can blackmail me from them. Just any other picture of any naked child. Insert that here. Type it into Google and it'll be all the same. Bunger says, upgraded Mobula 6 to Betaflight 442 from 4.3.2. Big mistake. Flew fine, but then I upgraded the motors. Now when I take off, the quad flies into the ceiling despite lowering the throttle and makes a chirping noise. I'm kind of kidding, Bunger, when I say big mistake. Just an unnecessary thing to do. Let's all... Bunger, this is not me picking on you, I swear to God. You are not the only person that does this. Most people do this, so this is me picking on most people, all right? Do not, please do not take this personally. Let's stop upgrading rigs when we get them. If you're going to buy a bind and fly, that manufacturer, in theory, sometimes they don't, but in theory, that manufacturer paid someone a whole bunch of money, and that person spent a whole bunch of time dialing Betaflight in to the motors, the propellers, the frame, the powertrain, everything in that rig. You then take it out of the box and you just delete all of that, and you put it onto a newer version of Betaflight that's stone stock, that has none of that hard work put into it, and you now have the most. And so here's the other thing: is that ever since Betaflight 4.2, the improvements to Betaflight have been minimal. So going from 4.3 to going from like 4.4 Jesus Christ, 4. Going from 4.3 to 4.4, even if you maintained the same tune and all that work that the manufacturer had done, you're getting pretty much no extra flight performance. The 4.4 versus 4.3, there's practically no difference. 4.3 to 4.2, there is a slight difference. like that you maybe, if you're a really good pilot, could feel in the air. But 4.3 to 4.4, you're not gonna. There's really no benefit. If there are some benefits, but if you need those benefits, you'll know about it. Oh God,
there it is. And there's the apartment in the background that he moved into.
Yeah, unreal. Yeah. Absolutely unreal.
Yeah, this is April 82. 1982.
I was one.
You were 1 year old at this. You had a cold on your first birthday.
Awesome.
So you felt terrible.
Okay, so all right, so that's probably what's going on, Bunger, is that when you went to 4.4, you got rid of all of that specific tuning that the manufacturer had done to make that rig work together. You went to 4.4. Now you've got a completely generic PID tune and filter setup that is not dialed in specifically for your rig. It sounds like that's not where the problem began. You then changed the motors, I'm going to guess, to a much higher power motor. When you go to a higher power... So I want to give you the real answer, but I'm afraid I'm going to lose you. I'm going to give you the real answer. If I lose you, someday this will make sense. I promise. The error correction on the quad gets hit by wind, and the wind pushes the right front up like this. The error correction, which is the PID loop, is going to crank up this rear motor to fight against that. And the numbers that you see in the PIDs, those are timing. They're not power. When you raise the PID numbers, you don't add power to the error correction loop. You shorten the timing. So the wind hits this motor, and you've got your PID numbers really high. When the wind hits this, the gyro can tell, and it immediately fires this motor up very quickly to kind of fight against that. That's why when we run higher PIDs, the rig feels more locked in. It doesn't wobble around as much, because it's almost like nervous. Like it's looking for any problems, and it's trying to fix them right away. Boom, boom, boom. Just fix it, fix it, fix it. The problem with that is if it fixes that problem and it overshoots, now it has to fire this one up. And if those numbers are too high, it's going to overshoot, and then it's going to overshoot, and it's going to overshoot. And that's what you have going on right now. You arm the rig, it's got too much power, and it's got too much response time, and it reacts, and that's that oscillation that you're hearing. I mentioned response time a second ago. When you raise the PID gains, the response time gets better because you're digitally telling it to fire the motors up earlier. So the response time doesn't really get better. The response time is based on the motors and the propeller and the weight of the motor bell. But when you raise the PID gains, you're kind of artificially giving yourself better response time. What the response time actually is how quickly your powertrain can change the RPM of the motors. And so if you went to higher power motors, then your response time lowered, which is the same thing, basically, as raising your PIDs. So essentially what you've done here with that rig is you've upgraded to a version of Betaflight that's completely stock, that doesn't have any of the customized settings that the manufacturer may have put in. I keep saying may because some of these manufacturers don't bother doing that. They just dump the stock Betaflight on there and send it out the door. And on like low-powered rigs, which most bind and flies are, a lot of times that works. When you then put high-power motors on there, it's no longer such an easy platform that's going to work on the stock tune. So you might actually need to pull your PID gains down. And I know that sounds awful, because who would want to ever do that, right? But you have artificially raised your PID gains way up, I think. I'm not sure that you have more powerful motors on there, but I can't imagine you putting less powerful motors on, so I'm just going with it. So the more powerful motors have artificially raised your PID gains, and now your PID loop is overactive, which is what I was talking about. It's overcorrecting, 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 overcorrecting. So as long as they're fresh, new motors, if you put used, beat up motors on, those are the problem. Get them off there. Get fresh motors onto the rig. I'm assuming that they're fresh motors, and I'm also assuming that they're more powerful. So you need to bring your PID sliders. Well, for you guys, it's this way. You need to bring your PID sliders down a little bit, or you might be able to solve the problem by adding additional filtering. That's harder for me to advise you on, because that is potentially the biggest problem with you changing it from Betaflight 4.3 to 4.4. The manufacturer on their 4.3 tune might have really dialed in the filters for their specific AIO motor frame combination. So when you went to 4.4, you may have wiped out some kind of necessary specific filters that they might have put on there. Is that wishy-washy enough for you? It's hard for me to know. Every manufacturer is different. They change stuff all the time. You know, like, even if you tell me like it's this specific quad, if you bought it a month ago versus a year ago, I can't buy every single quad that releases every single time that they change things, to be able to know that. So yeah, I wish I had an easier answer for you, but that's the real answer to what you've got going on. Hopefully I explained it in a way that you can kind of troubleshoot it, because you're not going to find someone that has bought exactly that quad at exactly that time and then flashed it to the exact same firmware and moved it to the exact same motors to be able to say, like, hey, this is exactly what you do. I consider my job to be educating you all so that you can troubleshoot this stuff yourself, because the sooner you can figure that out, the happier you're going to be in this hobby. You're only going to last 6 months to a year in this hobby not learning to troubleshoot and just dumping your questions into Facebook groups and getting terrible answers. You do, if you're going to really stay in this hobby, you do need to learn how to troubleshoot this stuff. And I try to kind of walk you guys down the path so that you understand what the hell's going on in the PID loop. God, I wish somebody had done that for me way back when. So that,
why didn't you ask?
You can figure it out. Oh, I did. I'm sure I did. I was desperate for anyone to help me with these fucking things when I was new. Wow.
No matter how ill-informed I was.
Boy. Yeah, back 6, 7, 8 years ago, before Black Box, all right, so we couldn't even Black Box. There was just no info. There was just, like, nobody understood it. Nobody knew how to PID tune. Nobody knew what the hell was going on inside these things. And it was a nightmare. And like, the components really sucked. So, like, our motors weren't well balanced. The motors were not well matched.
Bushings?
They were on bearings.
Oh.
Well, these were brushed motors.
Oh, right.
So these flew like total ass. The brushed motors don't have braking. So
yeah.
Everything was thrust based. So TinyWhoop flew especially bad. But even like full-size rigs, it was really rough back then. So yeah, take advantage of all that nowadays. And it's not that hard. It's pretty confusing. But
the first time you
watching.
flew a quad for me, it was at a campground in Charleston. And I remember before you put the quad up in the air, we went and we looked all around the campground for the telephone poles and the electrical wires.
Right.
Because the electrical wires didn't show up in the video.
Yeah, early analog days.
And you had to know where the electrical wires were to avoid them.
Yeah. I had this weird period in FPV of like 6 months where If there was a power line, I fucking hit it. And I hit it full speed. Full goddamn speed. I hit a power line at Miata's in Boone. I was all excited. I brought the quads with me to Miata's in Boone, and I was showing off like the first battery that I flew there at this big Miata event. All my Miata friends are there. And they're like, holy shit, that's cool. And here I come, full speed with this 2-inch rig into a power line. And it just exploded. It exploded on the power line, and then it slammed into the concrete and exploded on the concrete. It was like, it was so bad. It broke like damn near everything. And that was right in the middle of this weird period where, like, if there was a power line, I would hit it. And then analog got better, and we could kind of see them. We can kind of see them now. Not really, but kind of. Simon says, yes, exactly that. I wonder what we were talking about. I'm glad it was exactly right, though.
I agree.
Bunger, again, I hope you didn't take offense to any of that. I swear to God, I was not singling you out. You just asked the question that a lot of people ask. And you also asked a question that there's a ton of misinformation about. So, yeah, when that's the case, I feel it necessary to take 10 minutes to really try to give the good information that will put you all on the right path to understanding these things. Because I'm a firm believer that, like, if you're going to stay in this, you got to figure these things out. Like, if you're going to stay in FPV more than a year, and if you're really going to get to the point where you're super comfortable flying and you can really enjoy just flying, like literally enjoy flying through the air, yeah, you got to get past all this technical shit, and you got to, like, get good, really. And that's always my goal, because that's where the magic kind of begins. When you're thinking about the controls, and when you're thinking like, oh shit, maybe it's gonna fall in the air, and you're thinking like, I wonder if my PID tune is cranked too high, you're not really flying. You're like, engineering. Once you get all that shit figured out and you understand it all, then you can actually focus on moving your eyeballs through the air, and that's where it's at for me. Riot9 says, yesterday I cut my springs on a scale of stance to terrible. How bad am I? Here's the little known fact about cutting car springs. It actually does increase the spring rate. Not by much, but wrap your head around this shit. Think of a big long piece of spring steel that's mounted solidly at one end, and then you're jumping up and down on the other end. If you coil it, it's doing the same thing, believe it or not. But yeah, so with a big long piece of spring steel, and you're jumping up and down on it, and then you cut it down and you start jumping down here, it's a higher spring rate, right? Same thing. Even though it's coiled, it's basically functioning under that same principle of sort of leverage, I guess. So yeah, hopefully you didn't cut them too much. I'm assuming you cut a full coil off, because then it'll sit in the perch again. Yeah, that's pretty stancy, but you do you. Yeah, you're fine. You're fine. You're fine.
But your back is going to hate you.
Yeah, it's tough. Hopefully they were longer springs. Hopefully it's not like a Civic that you're cutting a coil off of, because then they become unbearable. While you're at it, if it's still apart, take some of the bump stop off. That'll help a lot. It's a little sketchy to do that because you're not significantly increasing the spring rate, so you can then bottom the bump stops hard. But yeah, there's tricks. Rob Oxison says, hey, Papa Ciotti! He also says, a Radio Master Pocket and a decent computer. That's a good idea. Radio Master Pocket.
Oh, for flying?
Yeah. Actually, it'll be too small for your hands, almost guaranteed. You actually do want a QX7. You want a big transmitter, because you've got the same size hands as me, right? Yeah. Yep, yeah, exactly the same. Yeah, radio.
Same hair too.
It's true. That's why my hair is so nice. Weebleed says motor screws. I forget what you said a minute ago, though. Just send me the link. Okay. Motor screws. We were talking about aluminum motor screws. I would rather have titanium, to be honest. I don't think that I don't think there's a significant enough on like a 3-inch micro. Going to titanium M3 screws does make a significant difference. I don't know about on a TinyWhoop if going from, I mean, so we've seen that going from stainless steel screws to PEEK screws does make a little bit of a, you can save 0.4 of a gram if you replace all 6 motor screws, all 12 motor screws. I just don't know if aluminum, so, I mean, and that's plastic, right? So if we go from like steel to aluminum, it's like, are we going to save like 1.1 of a gram? We're not going to save as much as the PEEK screws. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if aluminum screws would be light enough. It's interesting. I'm surprised that I've not heard of that before. Have you guys heard of that? Have you guys heard of anybody doing aluminum TinyWhoop screws to try to save weight? Dennis Matovich says, awesome, thank you. You're certainly welcome. He also says, helping a friend with line of sight flying, very new pilot. Line of sight's tough. That's where I started. You just got to put the time in. I don't think there's a magic bullet for line of sight. It's just time. You need the time. You need to put a ton of time in because you have to always know. You have to forget. You have to stop trying to control the orientation. You have to like not worry if it's tail in or nose in. It just has to be like a natural thing where like it's out there and it's going this direction, and then you push left to make it turn left, you push right to make it turn right, and you're kind of going to coordinate the sticks a little bit. So yeah, line of sight is just time. Just put the time in. So tell your buddy that. Tell your buddy to fly more. Buy him some extra batteries. Denzel the Terrible says, made her switch. Oh no, I certainly did not. FamGF, I mean, maybe in the wrong direction. Probably in the wrong direction. FamG says, CiottiFPV's mom kissed Santa Claus. ZBear99 says, after all that, would you please recommend your choice for an HD TinyWhoop compatible with DJI goggles V2 and ELRS? Not enough info to go off of, ZBear. So DJI goggles V2, I'm assuming that you mean the big old school DJI helmet goggles. DJI and TinyWhoops go together like oil and water. It's not a good combination. DJI VTXs and cameras are way too heavy. Thank you. Yeah, I'm assuming that you're talking about these goggles here. Hopefully you're talking about these goggles here. Well, actually, it doesn't matter. Yeah, DJI, it's just way too heavy. It's way, way, way too heavy for a TinyWhoop. You are never going to have a TinyWhoop that you can fly inside the house without breaking everything you own because of that weight. So I actually advise against that. You should not do a DJI TinyWhoop. If you're absolutely desperate to do one, you want an old school Vista. You want to rip it apart so that it becomes a naked Vista to try to get the weight down as much as possible. And then the hard part begins, because that is a double stack, very tall VTX that is 20 by 20 mount. TinyWhoops are 25.5 by 25.5 mount. So one of the hardest things is going to be figuring out how to mount that 20 by 20 double stack VTX on top of 25 by 25. And I don't know what to tell you. I have no idea how you would do that. Joshua and I really struggled whether or not to put a DJI TinyWhoop onto the TinyWhoop part of FPVKnowItAll.com. In the end, we said to hell with it. Let's throw something on there. And this is actually one of the only ones that there was to throw on there. Like the manufacturers have also realized what a nightmare it is to try to get DJI into TinyWhoops, and none of them have really done it. iFlight did do it with this Alpha A85. Definitely look up some reviews of the iFlight Alpha A85. Any honest reviewers are going to tell you how shitty it flies. And so, yeah, pay attention to those. Any reviews that you look at of that rig where they're like, oh, this is the best thing in the world. It's the newest and the best. It's the greatest quad ever. It flies better than anything ever. Take note of that and you know, don't watch that person's videos ever again, because they're doing the thing that a lot of reviewers do, where every single product is the greatest product in the world as long as you click their affiliate link so that they can make money. So, yeah, I would advise against it. If you're going to do it, you're going to really kind of need to do something that is either 2-inch on 2-inch propellers. Minimum you could do is 1.6-inch propellers, again, because you need a lot of thrust to pick up the weight of the double stack 20x20 Vistas, even when they're naked. So yeah, don't do it. Analog for life. In terms of TinyWhoop's analog for life, if you do that build, that's going to be an outdoor TinyWhoop. If you fly that thing in the house, it's going to be like 40-50 grams all up probably, and it's just going to break your house. Like, anything fragile is going to implode. It's going to hit walls hard enough to leave marks in the walls. So if you live with people, they're going to be pissed. Because, yeah, it's too heavy. It's also going to be extremely difficult to fly. Like, heavy TinyWhoops are almost impossible to fly inside the house. Flying inside the house at all is an absolute miracle. And one of the best things you can do to make that miracle happen is reduce weight. Reducing weight is actually the most important thing. So you're going the complete opposite direction. You're adding a ton of weight, which is why it's just going to be super difficult and very frustrating to fly in the house. So hopefully you're wanting to build that to fly outside. If you're wanting to build that to fly in the house, you're going to have a really hard... You're not going to have a fun experience. I can just kind of tell you that right now. So my main recommendation is to just not do it. Sorry, I know that's not the answer that you want, but I think that's the answer that you need. Flush FPV says, can't get... Well, here's... I forget about the fact that there technically are kits that will allow you to install a analog receiver into those DJI goggles. But everybody that I've ever talked to that has done that has hated it and never uses it. There's like latency. It doesn't use the screens right. It's kind of a mess. So I have very little experience with that, though. Maybe, and I've only talked to maybe 2 people that have done it. So I don't know. Maybe it's different now. It was a long time ago. But yeah, basically, if you want a proper TinyWhoop, it's going to be analog. Walksnail and HDZero are getting close to being like viable for an indoor TinyWhoop. In my opinion, for like proper freestyle flying, it's still not there. It's still too heavy. But it's getting close, which is exciting. But DJI they're nowhere near. You know, it's a 20+ gram weight penalty versus a 6 gram weight penalty. And it's just too much. Flush FPV says, can't get my DVR to record on my Fatshark Attitude V6 goggles. SD card formatted. Red light comes on solid, but when I push record, nothing. Stays solid, won't record. Welcome to the wonderful world of Fatshark DVR, Flush FPV. Me too. I Fatshark DVR, it sucks. It like, every time I've ever needed the Fatshark DVR to have been working, it wasn't working.
It's NVR.
What's that?
Not video.
Oh, right. Right. Yeah, it's just old shitty DVR. And I don't know why it doesn't work when it doesn't work. It just doesn't. Some people say that it's because the memory card is too slow. I've tried that. Some people say it's because you got to format it FAT32. I've tried that. There's all kinds of suggestions out there, none of which have ever really helped me.
Can you format the card from the goggles?
You can, yep, which is another thing that people do, and it doesn't help.
Okay.
It's just super all over the place. It works one time in 20, and it works on the battery where you plugged it in and let it sit on the floor for 20 minutes by accident. So yeah, it's just a nightmare. If you want to get DVR out of Fatshark goggles, you need to buy an Immersion RC Power Play, which now that I say it, I think they actually discontinued it. Immersion RC. What's happening? God damn it. Immersion RC Power Play. Anybody know if has anybody seen the Power Play for sale anywhere? So the Immersion RC Power Play was this awesome little screen box dealio with 60 frame per second DVR built in. That's really decent quality. And yeah, it looks like AliExpress has it. It's a little expensive, $160, but yeah, Fatshark goggles with this, that's DVR. That's the way to do it. I wish there was a better way. I wish Fatshark had put a better DVR module in. But way back when, they were putting in the best DVR module that they could. So, yeah. Old tech, yo. If you want the best DVR possible for analog, it's the HDZero goggles. They have a de-interlaced DVR in them. That is why Nick Burns' analog looks so good. The Anzilla Terrible says, what if you run only 2 screws out of 3? I would definitely not do that in a TinyWhoop. Running 3 screws instead of 4 when the motors are mounted to carbon, that's okay, as long as those 3 screws are on the corners that get hit a lot. I've shown you guys that a lot on my 5-inch rigs and even on the 3-inch rigs. When you've got 4, when you have 4 and then you do 3, it still mounts the motor flat. When you have 3 and you only do 2, the motor is not going to mount flat. It's going to sit, especially because this is plastic. So the 2 screws that you use are going to pull the stator into the plastic, and then that one's going to be hanging out. So the motor is literally going to sit like this a little bit, which is no good. So yeah, on TinyWhoops, you got to run all 3 screws. Yeah. CMYK FPV has an extra QX7 he'll never use. You really never use it? We'll talk. CMYK says, yo, what's up, gang? And Santa Ciotti? Bunger says, thanks so much for the help. You assumed correctly, and I think I understand. Awesome, dude. Awesome. I appreciate you not taking offense to that. It's a really... The reason why I go so deep down that rabbit hole every time is that it's a really important conversation. And it's not that hard to understand. Like, it is, but I can get most... So, on one of the things that I do through Fiverr is tuning. I help you with tuning. And what that session is not is like, hey, let's just tune your rig. All right, that rig's tuned. Bye. Like, it is me, like, educating you every step of the way and explaining what is happening so that at the end, yes, the rig is probably going to be tuned, but you're going to have, like, a roadmap for how to tune it moving forward, because if you change your motors, if you crash it and the motors start to get beat up, you might need to know what to do with the tune. If somebody says to me, like, I just can't understand it, I have no interest in knowing what it is, I just need a tune that's going to work, the conversation is actually going to become, like, we should not tune this, because the more aggressive we tune it, the less tolerant it's going to be when you start crashing it, and you refuse to learn anything, so you're not going to know what the hell to do. And I'm not talking to you once a week every time you crash it. So... yeah, it's really important to have some level of understanding, and the 10-minute rant that we did here is pretty common to what I go through with folks in the Fiverr sessions. to get them some sort of a base understanding as to what's going on. You know, those sessions are either half an hour or an hour, so obviously we dive deeper and we talk about their specific rig and like what will probably happen when they crash and stuff like that. But yeah, a good general understanding. And like there's just some really annoying like misinformation about tuning that's out there, that like once you get that out of your head, it really does help. And then just the last thing, I guess, is just like PID loop. Like nobody outside of like engineering, and I would say most engineers, don't even know what a PID loop is.
At the School of Engineering at the college in New Jersey, they spent a lot of time on PIDs.
Really?
So,
okay.
They used to 15 years ago when I worked there.
Yeah.
20 years ago.
So yeah, any like outside of an engineer,
yeah.
What the fuck is a PID loop? That doesn't mean anything.
What the heck is a PID
loop? No, we curse here. We're adults. This is not family friendly.
My son.
I try not to say. I've learned to try not to say goddamn or Jesus Christ, because that no longer just pisses off people with kids in the house. It pisses off religious folks. So that's as good as I can do.
How about cheese on a cracker?
What is that?
Jesus Christ.
Oh.
Don't you know anything?
What was I saying? No.
I'm sorry.
I've learned too much about FPV. It replaced everything else in my brain. What was I saying? I don't remember. It wasn't important. It was important, damn it. Yeah. PID loop. Like, PID loop doesn't mean anything. When I say error correction to people, it's like, oh, so it's correcting error. Yep, that's what the PID loop is doing. So, like, even just saying, like, the PID loop is an error correction loop, for people, like, on these Skype sessions, I'll, like, literally watch the light bulb turn on in their head, like, oh, okay. And then the filters, what are the filters? They're just audio filters. They're just filtering out vibrations. Oh, okay. So this one thing corrects error, and this other thing filters out vibrations. Yup, awesome. Like that's that understanding right there is like more than 90% of pilots will ever get to. Like it's the lack of understanding with what's actually happening in the software is staggering. Like the fact that we can get these things up in the air is pretty wild. So yeah, if I can do anything, it's give you that base level of understanding, and I feel good about that.
Do you want to do the sim and 6 batteries?
Yeah, maybe.
You're not going to have time.
I know.
What's more important? I guess
Q&A
sim
is
in
always
the
the most
title.
important.
And sim is in the title. Oh,
Yeah.
and so is 6 batteries.
I know.
Well, edit.
I'll take some of it out. Yeah, that's what I usually do. I'm trying to figure out where the hell I was in chat.
Blame it on me. I don't care. I ain't going to be here. This is it. I'm going back to Tybee Island. I'll see you there at the end of the month.
There we go. Denzel the Turbo says, just get the analog module adapter for DJI V2. Super easy peasy. I got there eventually. Dennis Matovich says, your help on the LEDs for the Whoop earlier will be used to help my friend fly LO. Oh, cool. Red for the back, white for the front. Thanks a bunch. Great idea, Dennis. That good God does that. Yeah, good God does that make line of sight a lot easier. Yeah. Great idea. Metalhead FPV says, I'm switching to the Goober V2 canopy, hoping for better results. Unfortunately, that involves changing cameras as well. Here's the problem with the Goober V2 canopy is it's heavy. The Goober V2 canopy with a camera that has screw mounts is going to be like 1.5 grams, maybe even 2 grams heavier. So if you haven't bought the camera already, I would actually recommend that you stop now. Like if you already bought the Goober V2 canopy, that's fine. You wasted $3 or $4, whatever. I would stop here and don't go the full Goober V2 route, because you're just going to gain too much weight. The quad's going to gain too much weight, and it's going to kill performance. Hate to be the bearer of bad news, but yeah, I would highly recommend not doing that. The Goober V2 canopy is a good choice for like toothpicks, stuff that's got power to spare. For a TinyWhoop, it's not a good idea. So hopefully I saved you from buying the camera, which is the more expensive part of that combo. Limits20 says, I broke the SMA port on the HDZero Whoop Lite VTX. It came off with the antenna while trying to replace the antenna. Do you think it's fixable? SMA port? There's an SMA port on that? Surely not. Surely there's a UFL port, not an SMA port. SMA ports are massive and really heavy. Okay, no, it's a UFL port. All right, cool. So yeah, this is a UFL port. If this is what broke off, it is absolutely fixable. It's gonna be a little bit ugly, but it's certainly fixable. I don't know if I've fixed that on a stream before. It's a tough fix.
No, I don't think you have. Here's SMAs.
U.FL fix. Yeah. So this is not it. Yeah, it is a difficult fix.
All soldering to these circuit boards is difficult fixes.
That's true. This is like next level difficult for the record. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I haven't fixed it because I want to say like even I struggle to fix it, but I kind of don't. But I almost struggle to fix it. Fixing UFL, man, that's okay. So this is, yeah. Here we go. I don't want to get copyright dinged, but I might be able to. Oh man, that's bad. That ripped the whole trace. So hopefully you did not rip this trace off like this, like has happened here. So here's what I'm going to tell you. Here's a functioning UFL. Here's a broken off UFL. Exactly the same. These two on the sides here are ground. These two ground pads. Oh boy, is this difficult to explain. So you've got your piece of wire. You've got your antenna wire. All right, this is your antenna wire. That has an internal core on the very middle inside. That is where all of the signal lives.
It's coaxial.
And then there's a plastic covering over that. And then there is
it's a dielectric.
Multi-stranded shielding.
It looks like solder wick.
Yeah, it does.
Yes,
yeah,
it is solder wick actually.
And it goes in a corkscrew in either direction, so it's like a net. It almost looks like a little net in there, and that's the ground. And then there's the outside insulator of the wire. These two ground pads on the outside are what you need that wire mesh on the outside. So what you need to do is you need to very carefully remove the outer black shielding off of a part of the cable, and then you need to solder that silver braided stuff on the inside of that
without melting the dielectric.
Right, without melting the inner. And then you need to get that inner core, and you need to hopefully you didn't rip the trace off, because that's going to make it so much more difficult. You need to solder that inner core to this signal pad here, and then you'll have fixed your UFL.
Well, you've reattached the antenna. You still don't have a connector.
Yeah, right. Technically, you can buy these little UFL jobbies, or maybe you saved yours, and technically you can solder them back on as long as you didn't rip the trace off. Usually you've lost it or it's damaged.
Even if you rip the trace off, in here you can solder right to that chip.
Yeah, they've got the trace running right to the... Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
The trace running right to this.
Right to that chip.
You'd be able to link right up. So like in this example, this guy is not going to be able to put a new UFL on, and I guess unless he does a big blob of solder.
No, you put a wire there.
Oh,
you solder a wire.
Let's see what he does.
From that chip underneath.
Let's see what he does. That's exactly what he's doing.
Yeah,
he put a little piece of wire there.
But you can see how big the soldering iron is compared to the components that he's soldering to.
And usually usually this chip isn't here. Usually this trace goes down into the board and somewhere else. So usually once you've ripped this trace off, it's game over. It's so difficult to get to the trace.
Look at this little thing here.
I think that's Bluetooth. I think that's a Bluetooth antenna.
It is some antenna. If you knew the lengths of those traces, you could figure out what frequency it was talking at.
So yeah, this guy replaced the UFL.
Yeah.
Looks like there's a couple. I just searched for fixing u.fl. Here's another one from Props Off.
Yeah, so watch the whole video a couple times.
Yeah, watch a few
before you try it yourself.
And I would just go down the list. I would watch like first, second, third, and fourth. And by the end of the fourth video, you'll have a really good idea of how to fix it.
And you'll replace the circuit board.
And then
you're looking at a couple of hours worth of work. So unless the board is incredibly expensive, you're not paying yourself very much money to spend all that time repairing that connector.
This is not me telling you to just buy the new thing. This is someone else.
And use an affiliate link.
Yeah, right. It's if you can do it though. I actually if you solder it, I don't know, it's weirdly fun. Solder I find it fun to solder the wire back onto there, and then you can actually just put a big blob of welder or like E6000 over top, and it's really strong. You could argue that it's stronger than a regular UFL. There was a point where there was a VTX or there was a situation where like I put the wire back on there and all of a sudden the quad was like way more durable because that was this was back before I figured out how to prevent UFLs from ripping off. That's the real solution here, is to let this be a financial lesson. Buy a new VTX and then properly secure the antenna so it stops ripping the UFL off. That's really what you want to do. CMYK says, the DVR and my Scout box goggles have been amazing for 3+ years. I highly recommend them. Not sure how to ask about Fatshark DVR issue. I think they put a different DVR into the Scout goggles. Do you know that to be true, CMYK? Also dropping the CiottiFPV.com link. Thank you, dude. Z-Bear says, sorry for confusion, trying to get away from analog. I have Goggles V2 with Lumineer axis set up, just trying to see if there was an HDWhoop compatible with DJI. Sorry if still not understanding. You're good, brother. Yeah, no, it's whoops are analog. Like it is what it is. DJI is completely uninterested in super lightweight stuff, and so they don't give any F's for it. So yeah, it just doesn't work. Allfaxes says your dad needs to fly the 6-packs today. Limits 20 says I meant UFL. Sorry, I got you.
Why does the Gangly Gang hate me?
Metalhead says, so would you recommend putting the BeeBrain V2 canopy on the Hummingbird? The original camera fits perfectly. What? No. Hold on. BeeBrain V2 canopy. Z-Bear, thank you so much for the super chat. Hold on, let me just look this up real quick. V2 canopy. Am I missing something? Is there? Yeah, so this is the NBZ Goober V2 canopy, and it is set up only for screw mount cameras. So when Metalhead, I guess what I'm confused about is you said the original camera fits perfectly. I guess I don't know what the... If you're referencing the original camera from the Hummingbird V3, I'm super confused because the camera that comes in the Hummingbird does not have any screw mount provisions for this. It can only be mounted in either TPU or the NBZ old school regular old Goober canopy, which looks like this, and it has this little bracket on the inside, which of course they're not going to show me because that would be way too easy. Please. There it is. Yeah, this little piece is necessary for mounting that camera. Yeah. Metalhead says BeeBrain, not Goober. Oh, I'm the dumb. I forget about this canopy. So I... Oh, did they not sell it anymore? Oh. They have to sell it. Where the hell is it? So this is the old school toothpick canopy. The problem with it is it on TinyWhoop frames is it rips the front post off the frame. So I really don't recommend it. Here it is. BeeBrain V2 canopy. Okay. Yeah, so this is more of a toothpick canopy where you can mount this thing into carbon fiber. The main issue with this canopy is it only mounts on the front, left, and right. So every time you face first into something, it peels this canopy back, and that rips that tries to rip the front plastic post off of your frame. And after a couple crashes, it succeeds in ripping the front plastic post off your frame. Technically, you can run a longer screw like we were talking about up in the front, and that'll make the situation better. But yeah, this is admittedly more of like a toothpick style canopy. Yes, the BeeBrain camera will fit in here. This also puts the camera up a little bit higher. It puts the camera more central and up a little bit higher. So it's a different feel to kind of flying it because the camera is up so high. It'll absolutely work. Make sure you run a longer screw in the front. But yeah, that'll totally work for you. CMYK says, I think it's Scout has better DVR. Yep, I thought I remembered that as well. Limits 20 says, thanks so much for explaining, but man, that sounds too complicated for my soldering skill. You and most people on that one. I have the same issue as the video. One pad is off. Just replace it, brother. I hate telling you guys to spend money when you can maybe possibly kind of fix stuff, but pay yourself more than the hourly rate that it will cost you to fix it, and just get a new one. VTXs are not expensive enough to warrant spending 2 or 3 hours bashing your head into that. And then what if you can't fix it, right? You pour 3 hours into it and you don't fix it. It's like, well, shit, I should have just bought a new VTX in the first place. To prevent that from happening in the future, you put your UFL down and you point it in the opposite direction. So if the VTX is here and the UFL is in the back and the antenna is going to sit back here, when you plug the UFL in, don't plug it in backwards, plug it in frontwards, and then 180 the wire and put a piece of shrink wrap over the top of the VTX. That's going to hold the UFL down, and then the loop of wire going the wrong direction, if the antenna gets pulled, it's going to give, there's going to be a little bit of give there. Strain relief, yep. But the real important thing is to have positive, to hold the antenna really strong. So like easiest way to do it is with a zip tie on the standoff, and you crank that zip tie really tight. Jesus. You crank that zip tie really tight and it's holding on to the antenna. So if I pull this antenna, all of the grip comes from right here. And no matter how hard I pull this antenna, I'll pull the head off the antenna here before the wire comes sliding out and rips the UFL off. So figure out a way of mounting your antennas where you can give them a good yank, because they're going to get yanked when it crashes through Scraggle. Those little branches are going to do one of these, and it's going to hang the whole quad by the antenna. So you need to be able to pull your antennas and not have them slide out of their mounts, which will then allow them to yank that UFL, because the UFL is like super, super, super weak. So yeah, you got to mount your antennas properly. Here is my over on CiottiFPV.com, actually, there's a link to my Thingiverse. There it is, my Thingiverse favorites. And then in here, my favorite camera mount of all time does not have a thumbnail image. which used to make it difficult to find until I realized that it doesn't have a antenna image. There's only 2 things in here that don't have thumbnail images, and this is one of them. I think I just said antenna image a second ago. This is it. So the UFL antenna wire slides right in here. This goes over your standoff. This goes over the other standoff here, and then you put a zip tie around this. And the TPU is grippy and soft, and then you got your antenna wire in there, and then the zip tie really cranks down the TPU to the antenna wire, and you can yank on that thing all day and it won't come out of there. I'll actually put 2 zip ties on the 5-inch rigs to really crank that TPU down on the wire. Z-Bear, thank you so much for the $10 super chat. He says, sorry for being your problem child. It's all good. This is the Q&A stuff in these live streams is the most value that I can possibly provide. So you're helping me. I see you.
There's a problem,
reflection. Which is something I'm sure you said to your dad all the time, huh? Metalhead with a $10 super chat as well. Thank you so much, dude. And then Hockey Rounds, I'm finally caught up on chat, says everyone should practice by soldering motor leads to TinyWhoops. It is a good way to practice soldering. It can be frustrating, but it is a challenging swinging with a weighted bat situation. Mailbag is from True RC. Super quick one. Right, left-hand circular polarized ultra short for one of these walk snail rigs. Right-hand circular polarized ultra short for one of these analog rigs. And then this is their core antenna. This is their less expensive, more durable antenna. This used to be called OCP, and now they call it core. I didn't realize it was going to be this short. I don't know what I'm going to do with this, but this is an incredibly short little antenna lead, maybe for one of these 3-inch rigs. Yeah, so that's not great. These are from their scratch and dent section. So, and usually when an antenna rattles like that, it's broken. In theory, this one's not. It's just being in their scratch and dent section. I guess there's a piece of plastic rattling around in here. Usually, like, if you buy an antenna that doesn't rattle right out of the box, and then you start flying it, and all of a sudden it's rattling, you've broken the inner components, and that antenna is effed. So, yeah, there's that. That's the end of mailbag. Quickest mailbag ever. We're going to do 6 batteries a day by flying 1 battery.
Didn't you just get another super chat?
Northern Tier with a $10 super chat. He says, "Let's see Dad fly 6-packs. Has he tried FPV yet?"
Okay, when Aaron's showing you the sim, I'll be flying the 6-packs.
You really willing to?
No.
Okay.
Unless you're just going to view Stevie Wonder view.
Right.
I could do that. Doing that now.
Let's do. We're just going to do 1. We're going to do 1. 1 battery on the Meteor 65 Air rig to see if we can maybe break the frame finally. By 6 batteries, I meant 1 battery. Some days are, some days you can't fly 6.
More batteries than the other.
Mogul Lord says, "What's going on? What did I miss during the party late?" All Q&A. Lots of really good questions today. So it might be a good one to rewatch. Here we go. Come on. There it is. Come on. Come on. Oh, God!
Did you just go upstairs?
Tried to.
Oh, the door's half closed.
Son of a bitch. Didn't make it very far.
Oh, you're in the shoes.
Yep. Oh my God. Why am I like this? Why am I like this? Ah! Santa helps me! Oh God, no! That was weird. I got like full-blown disoriented. There's another small dog somewhere up here. There's my mom. There's another small dog somewhere. There she is. There's my parents' little tiny dog. She doesn't seem to care about TinyWhoops. which is a good thing. The more oh god, the more dogs that don't care about TinyWhoops, the better. Oh god! Oh no! That's a new shelf there. I'm actually not used to that being there. Oh my god! Why am I hitting everything? I can hear you. Oh god, why? I am having a weird time today. This is okay. It's because I'm trying to rush, I think. Oh, let's fall down the stairs together, friends. Oh no, it hit me. It hit me. It hit me. How dare you, TinyWhoop? How dare you strike your master? Oh god, I thought I had enough forward momentum to get through that gate. I was wrong. Look how clean it is in here, yo. I clean like a lunatic before parties. Ah! Come on. Oh no. Whoa! Whoa! Oh, there's a small dog. I can't believe she doesn't care at all.
She's not interested in him.
Doesn't even care about looking at it.
Yeah.
Unreal. Hup! Oh! Whoop! Oh!
When you were flying upstairs,
yeah,
one of the things that you hit was the thermostat on the wall.
Really?
Because the thermostat sticks out from the wall.
Yeah.
And you were flying real close to the wall. You hit that and spun around.
Oh, God. Jesus. When they crash and start spinning, I love it.
Yeah. Well, go hit the thermostat again.
Yeah. Oh!
You hit these gates hard, don't
you? Hard.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much energy a 30-something gram little TinyWhoop will carry.
Yeah.
Oh, well, didn't quite get there. Ooh, that's gonna be a hand recovery for sure. Look at this runtime, man. Look at this runtime from 32,500 kV. No, these are the 30,000 kV motors, but same runtime as everything else.
Look at the camera, little girl. Atta girl.
Look at that little dog.
Atta girl. All right, back to mommy.
Bye-bye, doggy. All right, hold on. A little bit more. Almost good. Almost done. Almost done. Let's go. Let's go harass the little doggy.
Oh, now she's looking at it. Nope. She walked under the desk and then just turned around and walked away.
Doesn't care.
No.
Old dog. Look at that old dog walk.
She's 14.
Oh, 2.9. No. No. No, no, no. Not the way to do it. And now I can't get the battery unplugged. Oh, sorry about this one. That battery has seen its last day. ZBear99 says, which whoop are you flying? This is the ultimate freestyle TinyWhoop with the Meteor 65 Air frame on it. My least favorite of the new. Oh, we finally did it. Today was the day. Today was the day.
Yeah, I'll bet that was off of the... Well, there's two things that you hit really hard upstairs. One was the front thermostat. Mm-hmm. The other one was the railing up on the second floor.
Yeah.
You hit the railing.
So there it is. This frame has broken in the exact same spot that they're all breaking. This is the very obvious weak point of these Meteor frames. It's where they crease. You can very, very easily see where all of the stress from crashes kind of gets focused on these frames. So this is one of the rear ducts, which doesn't really deal with a lot of hits, but you can see that crazy bend in it. That's where it's creasing. That is like where, yeah, just all of the crashes, like all of the energy is sort of going. and that's exactly where they break. This is now the second one that I've broke in probably the span of, I don't know, maybe 70, 80 batteries. I've seen a lot of these Meteor 65 airframes broken under 100 batteries. And yeah, all 4 ducts are showing that same crease point. And like, you end up making it worse by folding that back. Like, you can't let it just keep creasing like that, because eventually the props will hit the duct, right? The duct goes from round to like
oblong.
Ovular or whatever. And then the props hit the duct, and that's game over. So you have to fold those creases in the opposite direction, and then that just makes it even worse. So happy days, my least favorite of these 3 lightweight frames. I've now broken the second one, and that's it for me. I am done with the Meteor 65 airframe, and I think you should be too. It is the worst of these 3 lightweight new frames. The only singular benefit that it has is that it's lighter weight than the rest. So if you are not going to crash, which is just silly, and or you only care about lightweight, that is the only scenario where I can recommend the Meteor 65 airframe, which is a shame, because the original Meteor 65 frame was like the opposite. It was incredibly durable. It really dealt with vibrations well. This one, this frame is kind of like the Happy Model Diamond. Like, they sacrificed everything just to get it to be lighter weight. Well, you can't do that. Like, you can't just focus solely on one specific thing and ignore everything else. You end up with something that does everything else poorly, other than that one thing. So there we go. We broke a second one. And this is a clear one that we broke. The other one we broke was black, and we were saying, like, oh, black plastic has a bunch of colorant in it, additive, whatever the hell it's called, blah, 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 blah. Let's get in the sim, yo. Rob Oxison says, time to update Joshua's site with frame info. I probably will not. The Meteor 65 frame is what's called out on his website, and for most people, I still think that that's the best frame. The Weebleed crown frame isn't even out yet, so that can't be added. The NewbieDrone Cockroach V3 frame is ever so slightly better, but it's not better enough for me to really recommend it over the Meteor 65. I've still got I'm still gonna have rigs that are on the Meteor 65 frame. I'm not gonna move all the builds over to the Cockroach frame, because there are still some things that I don't love about it. Namely the battery mounting. It's not the end of the world, but the way that the battery mounts the Meteor frame is better. And yeah, trying to explain like the carbon fiber brace situation and like all of that. I think that the Cockroach 65 V3 frame is for us. It's for us that are willing to dig into this stuff, and actually learn it. For people that are that just want the easy button, and they just want to go to Joshua's site and get a list of stuff and buy it and just build it, and yep. I think the Meteor 65 is the better option for that audience. So I think we're going to kind of leave it. The Cockroach frame is just, it's a little confusing, right? Like, there's a carbon fiber brace, there's not a carbon fiber brace. It comes with extra long screws. Extra short screws. You got to make sure you use them. Don't use the screws that come with your motors. Like, there's too many chances for somebody that's new, that's just looking at a list, to screw up and drive motor screws that are too long into the windings and ruin the motors or break the PCB or whatever. So yeah,
hit the like button, gangly gang. Please
hit all the buttons. Do all the YouTube buttoning. I'm no longer caught up on chat, but we about to take care of that. Denzel the Terrible says you should get your dad to remake the Clam Man vid for us.
It's too cold.
Oh man.
But I could do that. We're going to be in Tybee Island. We could do it.
That's true. We'll have the sea. The
We'll
sea
have
will
the-
be
we'll have
available.
the- well, it's the yeah, it is. That's the Atlantic Ocean, isn't it?
Yep. Cole Powers says you would enjoy it slightly less if Teddy didn't care about chasing you. My dog chases, then leads out front and occasionally boops me out of the air. That's awesome. Teddy's been really good about it. Really, really good. Rob Oxen says, I wish my dogs didn't pay attention to my quads. Z-Bear says, okay, we got that. Rob Oxen says, time to update Joshua's site. We got that. Kunzi says, peak screws worth it. Sorta. Only use the two, if you're going to do peak screws, only put them on the two inner screw holes. Leave the outer. Was that a bird?
It's my watch telling me that it's 5 o'clock.
It's like, holy shit, there's a bird in here?
No.
Run a metal screw on the outside because that takes the most punishment, and then run the peak screws. I don't have them in that frame. I don't have them in this frame either. And then run the two peak screws on the inside. You can't even really see the peak screws, but you see how there's not black screws on the inside too?
They're on here too.
So, yeah.
So you're going to have an extra set.
They're kind of worth it. It's a point. I got a bunch of extras now, yeah.
Okay.
You're going to save like 0.3 of a gram. That's not much. But if you've done here's what I'll say. If you've done everything else, then maybe peak screws. Bob Bruce says, do the Clamman vids as long as he speaks in a foreign language with subtitles. Ethan W. says, I agree about the peak screws.
I only speak hand Italian.
Northern Tears says, has anybody actually noticed the difference using peak screws? I certainly haven't. Ethan W. says, I've smashed 2 now. They will break. The peak screws will break, even if you only put them on the inside. But they do last a decent amount of time. I actually haven't broken one yet. Kunzi says, what's the best weight for a 65mm TinyWhoop? As light as possible. Flying inside the house, the biggest improvement is to save weight. So there's no such thing as too light when it comes to TinyWhoops inside the house, other than if you're sacrificing durability. If you're sacrificing durability to continue lightening up the TinyWhoop, you're going to hit a point where it's annoyingly fragile. So, but that's different for every single one of us, right? For me, it's like all off the shelf stuff. Like these builds are the perfect mix of lightweight and durable. But I crash hard. So for those of you that don't fly as fast or crash as often or as hard, you might be able to get a little bit more custom and start removing pieces of plastic to save more weight, or running lighter weight, more fragile components. So yeah, it's different for everybody. So we're gonna go 5-inch glide, and the name of the session is gonna be CiottiFPV. And let's do how about Industrial Wasteland? Okay, or not, because it won't give me the okay. That's weird. Apocalypse? Oh, okay. Velocidrone's having trouble. Maybe it's not Sim Sunday. River 2? Oh no, we're there. We go. What is happening here? Let's go to Future Hangar. What the? Okay, nope. Oh, I see. There's a filter. It's the filter is causing the problem. Okay, so construction. What's construction? Let's try that one. Hold on. I need to be able to see Chad. Okay, so somebody earlier was asking about this map. This is the stupid map. I don't like this one. Somebody
kind of S-turn?
Yeah, somebody earlier was asking about tight split S's.
Split S's.
Change track. I want the shipping port. There we go. Okay. So shipping port, we'll have plenty of. So to practice split S's, try to find something horizontal. I mean, these things here are like kind of perfect. Sort of. But try to find something simple. Let's find something in this map here.
There you go.
All right, so try to find something like this, where it's just a simple horizontal. You can technically do it with like 2 trees next to each other, if they're close enough, but try to find something with a horizontal and then a gap. This is going to be tough because it's gigantic, but I can at least I can at least try to hit like just the middle of this thing. So what I was saying before, get the stick overlay going. So what I was saying before, right? So if I want to split S through the middle, through the middle spot here, if I approach it completely lined up, chop the throttle, turn it over, it'll fall right through the middle. We're not changing the left to right at all in that case. It's lined up properly, turn it, it'll fall right down exactly the way it should. If you're not quite perfectly lined up and you don't just want to bail on it, so let me line up a little bit to the right here. Oh God, where'd that come from? So I'm going to line up to the right. What you can do is drag the throttle down, and then it'll line you up in the middle. See how much it moves over? So now watch the stick overlay. I'm going to do it again. Watch the stick overlay. I'm going to really be off center. And so you're doing both things at a time. You're slowly lowering the throttle as you turn it over to give a little bit of sideways thrust for it to change sort of the flight path. The other thing that you can do, which doesn't look as good, is to do it normally, off center, and then here, and then leave it there, and now it's going to pull itself through. You're not completely flattening the horizon. I would much rather flatten the horizon like that. It just looks much cleaner and much better. But technically speaking, if you've screwed up, you can leave it here and kind of turn it into something else. Like, you see how far left we were able to push that? So there's a couple different ways to do that. See, now we cleared the entire thing just by dragging the throttle. But ideally, you'll have lined it up properly, and you'll chop the throttle quick and turn it over at the same time so that you're not dragging the throttle out at all. By the time you get off the throttle, that's when you're going to put the rotation in, right? Because if you're still on the throttle when you start that rotation, it's going to push you sideways, right? So how quick you kill the throttle, just look at the stick overlay, right? So how quick, the stick overlay is kind of obscured by sub and follow, but I think you can kind of see it. Yeah, how quick you kill the throttle has a lot to do with how you're going to line yourself up on these split S's. Now, the question was actually about like tight split S's. So I think basically the question is about that. And there is a little bit of a unique thing that I do with these split S's that not many people do to kind of make that happen. And it's an extra little throttle blip there. So I've done it a couple times in a row. I'm just going to keep doing it. Watch my stick overlay on the bottom. You see the difference? You see what I'm doing there? So once you have it turned over, if you put a throttle blip in, you can really kill the forward momentum. You've got this forward momentum. If you let it keep going, it's going to just keep traveling like that. See, we missed it completely. If you approach it really slowly, you don't have that issue, right? Like if you're flying in the house and you approach it slowly, you can just kind of let it fall. But in the house, man, that's tough. So get into the habit of turning it over and then just a tiny little throttle blast. One of the things you can do to kind of understand that for yourself is to make sure it has a GoPro holder at 30 degrees, a GoPro mount at 30 degrees, and just pretend like you're flying over. And then, so you've got your split S, and just with your hands, just do roll. And now, like, remember, right? Like, this is roll. Like, your nose down. Roll is only going to do that. Roll is not going to do that. Right? That is mixing roll and yaw. If you mix roll and yaw, you can get it to kill this angle and both roll out and then flatten like this. But that's not how we do split S's. We do split S's with only roll. And so when you do that, you're on the throttle, you kill the throttle, you only roll it over, it's still got this forward momentum, so if you blip the throttle, that's what's going to make it fall. Technically, it's going to push itself down a little bit, but another good practice of split S's is to blip the throttle right before you do it. So throttle blip to give it upward momentum. While it's still going upward, you're going to roll it over, and then you're going to stab the throttle really quick. That'll kill the forward, that'll kill the up, and it'll fall straight down. So down here in the basement, when I'm going through the gate, I'm in that. So I'm throttle blipping up towards the gate. As I go through the gate, it's doing this, and then as soon as I get out of the gate, it's going to stop and fall straight down, just so it doesn't keep carrying, because inside all the distances are really compressed. And that, my friends, where's the button? Is how I do split S's, and I think maybe that's what whoever was asking that question about tight split S's might have meaned. If you're still here, though, let me know if that's not actually what you were talking about. Split S's are absolute bread and butter. They are something that you want to work on a lot because they're in everything. Like everything we do has split S characteristics to it, whether that be like big gnarly Matty flips or like all this stuff is you're going to practice from split S's. You have elements to split S's, and by practicing split S's, you're going to get better at a lot of this stuff. I might hit the crossplay. I knew I was going to hit that. So yeah, do loads and loads. It was Simon. There it is. Yes, it was me. I can split S 5 inches all day. I'm struggling with TinyWhoops. Everything with TinyWhoops is difficult, man. This is definitely going to help you out, though. With you need to break. You can be pretty sloppy with 5-inch rigs. The gaps that you're going to shoot outside are massive. That's going to hit. Yep. The gaps that you're going to shoot outside are absolutely gigantic. So try to either find a location you can fly with like smaller openings, or just get your ass in the simulator and play around with stuff like this. You know, this is fairly difficult to reliably send it through the same spot here. And if you do this wrong 200 or 300 times, you'll start to actually understand what's happening. And you'll also start to figure out these little things that you can do. So the most difficult way to correct the trajectory of a split S, but one of the best, is to throw a throttle blip in the middle here. You don't have to do the whole rotation all at once. Like you don't have to stall it out. You can do split S's all nice and laid out like this. And if you do that, you've got time in the middle. Watch my throttle. So I'm going to lay this out. I was able to add 3 throttle blips in there while it was still turning over. And so if you really get this off, like if you want to go through there, but you're all the way over here, you're going to have to do that. You're going to have to throw a big throttle blip in to fly it back over. Which kind of, I try not to approach stuff as like moves. Like these aren't like skateboard moves to me. These are camera movements, because there's a ton of subtlety that you can get. You can make these split S's go through the middle, go through the side. You can put a blip in here to make it miss the thing completely. There's a ton of nuance to this stuff. And so just thinking about them as like up, up, down, down, left, right, that's not the way to do it, in my opinion. There is a good amount of timing to this stuff, but you're going to figure that timing out regardless. So focus on like, yeah, I give you a lot to focus on. So you're going to have a lot that you can play around with there. But those are some of the ways that I've found to make split S's a little bit more doable. Try, like I said, try not for it to just be like 1 step, 2 step, 3 step. Like it's a little bit more than that. Like just keep flying. Don't get so stiff with it Just keep flying around and just understand that you're turning it, you're flying towards something, you're blipping the throttle to go up over it, you're turning it over, and if you miss it, that's fine. Just pay attention to what it's doing, and just try different stuff too. Like throw a throttle blip in early, throw a throttle blip in late, do the rotation really slow, come back and do the rotation really fast. My rates are pretty slow, but yeah, there's a lot to split S's. Oh, that would have been cool. Let's do that one again. Oh, get there. There it is. Yeah, split S's are super important. Work the shit out of split S's. And you can make corrections like that towards the bottom. I mean, there's just all kinds of ways to salvage a split S. The trick for me is always to try to salvage it in a way that like still looks good, right? Like, so if you like that was a failed split S that I turned into like a wacky backwards dive. You know, I got this lined up wrong. I don't like where it's at. Keep it rotating. Drop it down here. Try something else. Like you can tie it into a bunch of different stuff. The core of it is that you're flying over something, inverting. Although maybe you might not invert. Maybe you'll just knife edge. But you're flying over something and then you're dropping down through it and you're coming out the other side. But just loop that into other stuff. It's so tempting to just approach it as step 1, step 2, step 3. Repeat. As you're repeating and as you're making mistakes, stay with it. Don't like, oh, I got it out of order. Bail. Like, let it fall. It's the sim. Let it fall to the ground. See what happens. See where you end up. And then you might learn something. With your real flying, one of the tricks is to record yourself and then watch it back afterwards. And when you watch it back afterwards, you'll notice that you're like overwrote. So one of the other things that just reminded me of, I don't need to arm the rig. It's the simulator. You want to pay attention to whether or not you are over or under rotating. So the horizon is level. I'm going to come up and I'll do it on this next one. Come up. And that's an under rotation. I did not rotate enough versus come up here. And that is an over rotation. You want to pay attention to that because you're going to have a tendency to like, all right, I'm going to line it up perfectly. I want to line it up perfectly because I just want to focus on it. Well, if you line it up perfectly and then you over rotate, there's a chance that it's not going to fall through the gap. And you're going to be very confused about that. So make sure that you really want to try to, either slightly under rotate so that you can then fix it or nail it. And it's timing in order to nail it. The amount of time that it takes this rig to go from right side up to upside down never changes. Your rates don't change. This is why you want to stick with the same rates over and over again. And yeah, if the rates are the same, and although between real and the sim, there is going to be a difference. Even though the rates are calculating off of the same values, it's just going to be different. So your over rotation, under rotation in the real world is going to be different than in the sim a little bit. That's okay. The sim practice is still really good for you, and it's going to be something that helps out quite a bit. But there is going to be a little bit of a adjustment period that you just have to go through. So yeah, great question, dude. Thank you for letting me talk about split S's. They're a super important move that like most people just kind of learn and that's it. Like, okay, I know how to do split S's, but you can really pimp them out and do some really fun stuff with them. None of which I'm doing right now. Right now, I'm just kind of floating around. But like I said, they're a part of a lot of what we do, right? Like that's a split S. It didn't really look like it, but because it was tied in, as is that, right? Like it gets incorporated into so much of what we do. That's almost like a reverse split S, kind of. Not really, kind of though. And the things that you're going to learn from the split S are going to translate into everything else that you're doing up in the air. God, I'm getting sloppy in here.
I'm getting dizzy.
Yeah. Simon says 2 right, 5 inches forgiving. I can whoop split S 40% of the time. More practice needed. The blip tip is good. Here's the last thing I'll give you, Simon, for split S's in the house, is that you're probably going to have to do them faster. Because everything just happens quicker with TinyWhoops. You're going to have to tighten everything up. So you're going to throttle blip chop and then just like watch my so like if I was flying a 5-inch rig like I am in the sim right now, I'm usually going to do split S's more like this, more laid out, just chilled out, no big deal. Make it into one big movement, make it look cool, maybe do a little reversal in there. Like it's, and then now we're into another split S. It's much more lazy. It's much more kind of laid out. There's a little bit more that you can do. And you can even kind of like, you can even add like some really cool kind of flavor to it, which you guys will see me do, like rock it one way and then send it the other way like that. Indoors with a TinyWhoop, like this, instead of practicing here for an indoor split S, you want to practice here, a much smaller little thing, and it needs to be crisp and it needs to be all inside of like a quarter of a second. So just watch my stick overlay and watch how much quicker things happen. Stop doing power loops, just do split S's. So it's going to be chop over and then that little throttle blip there, chop over, bring it back through, because you just don't have the space inside. And I mean, I didn't even get it over the object there. Oh, God, get out of here. But yeah, you really need to tighten it up inside the house and have everything be on top of one another. The pacing needs to be much quicker. Can I dive down the middle? Oh, almost. So yeah, that's probably going to help you too. That is one of the reasons why it's so much harder inside the house to fly TinyWhoops, because like you have to speed all your pacing up. It'll feel lazy if you don't. And yeah, that little extra throttle blip there that nobody really talks about, that's going to help you out. And you can see it, right? You can see the quad stop moving forward. You really need that if you're like balling. Like if you come in here hot, you got to do something with that forward momentum. Look how much we carried without that little blip, right? So if you're coming in hot, you got to hammer it to get it to stop moving. Even there. Oh, God. And now you can see there, it barely stopped itself. Like I struggled to get back through because I barely killed that forward momentum. And I actually have to add a second throttle blip in. You see that second blip? Ready? 1, 2. I'm doing that kind of on the fly because it's not going through. I don't necessarily want to do that second. It's just I'm noticing that it's not going all the way through. If I wanted to do it in 1, it would be... it would be like a racing move, basically. So, there you go, my friend. Hopefully that helps. I'm sure it does. Nobody, like... People that talk about split S's, it's just like, yeah, you just turn it over and then let it fall and then fly it back through. It's like, okay, yeah. But there's just a lot more to it. And I know that was a short sim session, but it is 5:20 and my throat hurts and it's time to end today's episode of Sim Sunday. Let's get caught up on chat there real quick.
Click the like button.
Simon says, split S a tree is the easiest move. Split S a chair, different game. Practice, practice, practice for sure. Don't fall into the trap, though, of just dumping time into practicing. It helps for sure, but thoughtful practice is what you want. And a part of that is going to be recording yourself and watching your flight footage back. Also, never blame the rig. Always blame yourself. Even if it's not your fault, you can change your flying. The rig is the rig, right? Maybe you can repair it or put a better set of motors on it, but blame yourself. Don't blame the rig. And yeah, it's like, don't, like, this is supposed to be fun, right? Like, it's easy to fall into this trap of like, I'm the worst, I'm the worst, I'm the worst, I'm the worst. And that goes the other direction. Like, when you're getting frustrated, when you're crashing, like, practice laughing. Like, it's funny as hell. You know, like, motorsport, you can't crash like this. You'll die. appreciate the fact that we can crash these things 7,000 times and we live, and it's cheap to replace them. So yeah, don't get into that, like, pressuring yourself, like, I've done this 100 times and I'm not getting better, I'm the worst. Just laugh through it, understand that this is difficult, man. Flying TinyWhoops in the house, you're going to get it wrong 100 times, you're going to get it wrong 200 times, you're going to get it wrong 1,000 times. But if you keep going and going and going and going, you can really rip inside the house with these new setups that we've got. But yeah, when you watch me fly, understand that we're talking tens of thousands of batteries, many of which have been on TinyWhoops over the last 8 years. These have been a big part of my FPV flight time. So never, 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 never hold yourself up to the standards of the top racers or me or any of the other guys that you see on YouTube flying TinyWhoops. You judge yourself against yourself. If you're the same or any better than you were last week, that's a massive win. And even if you are getting worse, it's still okay. You'll have bad weeks, you'll have bad months. Just keep going, brother. Rob Axison says, what is the camera angle on the sim rig? It is 30 degrees. It might even be 35 degrees. Northern Tier says, kind of new to Velocidrone. How do I find your track that you were on? You would, if it was still up, I quit out. You would go to multiplayer and then the America region, and then it should just be in there. Simon says, legend. Thank you, dude. YouTube just did the thing. Trying to find my place again. There it is. CMYK says, I feel like skateboarding is the perfect analog to freestyle flying. You must acquire foundational movements to progress. Then you start adding in the style or corrections. I can see that. Yeah, I agree with that. Simon says, me and my girls piss ourselves laughing. It's hilarious. Good. Rob Oxison says, virtual reality with severe, dire consequences. And then CMYK says, it's still up. We were flying. Yeah, it'll transfer the owner to somebody else. Thanks for hanging out, friends. My name's Aaron Ciotti. Everybody calls my Ciotti. This is right?
I agree.
This is my dad. Be good. CiottiFPV.com to support me. Do things. Have fun. I'll see you guys tomorrow night at 10 o'clock. No giveaways tomorrow night, but much fun to be had. Look, I finished it. I told you guys I would finish it. There are all kinds of problems. The ducts push up against the MIPI cable, which is scaring the hell out of me. Another one of the ducts pushes up against the port that I need to plug in to get to update it and get the DVR off of it. And then and there's another pain in the ass thing that I noticed. But we'll play with this tomorrow night to see if it'll work. I think I'm just gonna put it up in the air, and if it ruins this MIPI cable, it ruins this MIPI cable. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm gonna try to get both of these new walk snail builds that I did up in the air tomorrow night. We'll see. Be good, friends. Love you lots. Bye-bye. I'm not ready to go anywhere. Hold on. What is this? A .mov file? What are you? Oh, analog. Here's some drift car chasing. As if you couldn't guess, that's what it's going to be. Come on. Let's go Epidemic Sound. Oh, yeah. Oh, this is the one. Later, friends. Hold on. Why is that not working? Black hole. Oh, I bet you it's just turned down all the way. Here we go.
Now in the presence of a presence of a